If you would have told me when I was 20, like, you're going to be in prison for killing somebody one day, I never would have believed that. I wake up, police beating on the door. The house is surrounded by police. They said, come with us. It was just strange. I felt like I was in a dream. After being treated like a monster for all those years, in my mind, I started to believe it. I don't want to glamorize or glorify nothing I've ever done. I want people to learn from my mistakes.
After I have that first one, I'm no longer in control. I really wanted to quit. And then I would wake up the next morning and have no choice. I'd lost my identity and I didn't know who I was. I just had nothing left. And I needed help so bad. It all came down on me. I could not pull myself out of it. I had hit rock bottom. I just knew I was gonna die. And I remember just praying that foxhole prayer, like, God, please just get me through this moment. I'll stop doing bad. I will stop everything. The goal of my podcast is to not only educate people on, mental health, but also let people know that they're not alone.
Jacob, welcome.
Thanks for having me, bro.
Yeah, of course, man. Of course. I know it's late and you've done 2 interviews already, so I appreciate you jumping on. You're originally from Tennessee.
Yes, sir.
Where in Tennessee are you from?
I was born in Cookeville General Hospital. It's about 65 miles east of here, straight down I-40.
Okay. Did you spend a lot of time in Nashville growing up and going out, or were you more of like a country boy?
Yeah, I was a country boy. I didn't spend much time in. I still haven't spent a lot of time in Nashville. My best friend from high school, he lives out here. He lives in Antioch, I think. Yeah, but he lives like 10 minutes from here. But I've been coming out here since me and him started getting back together.
Nice.
We didn't see each other for a lot of years, but yeah, we recently started hanging out a little bit. So I've been coming to Nashville some.
That's great, man. That's great. So I heard you say before you have a brother. What was growing up like, and did you have more than one sibling?
I have 4 brothers.
What are the ages?
So my older brother, Josh, he is, I'm about to be 44, so he's about to be 47. And then I have a younger brother named Eric. He is about to be 41. My brother, Dylan, just turned 35 or 36. I get it mixed up now. We're all getting old. But yeah. And then my youngest brother, his name is Jared. He's 7 years younger than me. So I'm going to be 40. Wow. Dylan's 38. Is that true? Is that right? Man, I'm not that good at math. 44 minus 7. Yeah, that's 37.
Yeah.
My baby brother's 37, man. I'm old.
Wow.
So yeah, Dylan be 38 and Jared's 37.
Okay. So 4 boys growing up. What was that household like?
It was pretty wild. Yeah, we were kind of rough, I guess, But I mean, not like like I said, there's 7 years difference in my youngest brother and I. So I was very protective of my younger brothers, but us 3 older ones, I guess we kind of roughed house each other a little.
Yeah. What were things like with your parents?
So my parents are still married. They're December 23rd is going to be their 48th, because they were married a year before my brother Josh was born, and he's about to be 47. So yeah, December 23rd is going to be their 48th anniversary. They're still together. My father, he was a construction worker. A lot of times we would travel around the country to wherever, he was working. And sometimes he would go by himself, and it would just be us at home with my mom. And we were definitely wilder when my dad was gone, because he was kind of the disciplinarian. But yeah, I come from a pretty normal family. Like, we went to church. That's a pretty big thing down here. We're in the Bible Belt, Yeah. So, but yeah, it was all right, man. Like, I can't complain about my upbringing at all.
Hey, everyone. I want to take a moment and thank you for tuning in. If you've been enjoying Rise Above, it would mean the world if you could take a second and rate our podcast and leave a quick comment. Your feedback helps us grow and build our community together so that we can continue to spread these stories of resilience and give people hope. Thank you so much.
Did you guys all play sports?
Yes. Yeah, we did. At one time, my older brother and I was a freshman, he was a senior. We played high school football together on the same team. I played baseball, basketball. I guess we all did.
What are you, 6'4"?
No, I'm 6'2".
6'2". Yeah, you're a big build. Did you play football through high school as well?
I did. I wasn't as big. I was like 165 when I graduated.
Okay.
I was smaller back then. I was late bloomer, I guess.
Nice. Did you? Oh, your brothers played football through high school, and you guys were all athletes, rambunctious. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming drinking, maybe smoking weed.
So
I feel like everyone does that in high school.
Really, no, man. I'm the black sheep of my family. I'm really the only one that really got into drugs. I feel like all my other brothers are pretty square.
Yeah. What kind of drugs were you doing in high school?
Well, in high school, I didn't do a lot of drugs in high school. You know, I think the first time I drank like a 12 pack when I was like 13. And I can remember my grandfather died 5 years before I was even born, you know, in 1975. And I found like some old bottles of liquor way back in the cabinet. I used to go and sneak and drink that liquor. And then I smoked weed really early, you know, just tried it. And then maybe only like a handful of times growing up, I smoked pot. And then when I was 17, you know, and I got a car and got a job and I could get out of the house. You know, I tried like Coke and LSD, and I believe that was the first year I ever tried meth. I was 17, but I never really got addicted to it. You know, I wasn't like a chronic drug user. I just experimentation, I guess you could say. But then once I got out of my parents' house, once I moved off on my own, I did get into, you know, like heavier drug use.
What kind of heavier drugs were you doing?
So I became an IV drug user around 22. Yeah. So I had started, I had snorted an OxyContin, man, just like everybody else. I think that's how everybody comes to opiates, was through OxyContin. And I sniffed an OxyContin, and it was the best I'd ever felt in my life. And I was just like, whoa, man, like where have I been? Like, and I never wanted to be sober again after that until I, you know, hit the bottom of the barrel and realized, you know, it wasn't all rainbows and butterflies. But at first, when you first start doing it, you're like, how could this be bad? You know, you feel so good. Like, how could this be wrong? But yeah, I snorted OxyContin for the first time. Then one of my neighbors one day, he was like, man, I could get some boy. Or you like boy or something. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, hell no, I don't like boys.
Heroin?
Yeah.
Yep.
And but I thought he was
saying some sense. Yeah, of course.
You know, and he's like, no, man, I mean heroin. He's like, you know, coke is girl and dope is boy. And I was like, nah, I ain't never did it. And he's like, well, my brother's wife got some. You want to try it? I'm just like, yeah, why not? I went and sniffed a $10 bag, and I realized like this is the same thing I've been doing. This is OxyContin. It's just way cheaper. Mm-hmm. So I started snorting heroin, and I did that for about a year. And one day I met a guy. He's like, "You don't bang it?" And I'm like, "Nah." He's like, "Man, bang it. You're wasting it." And he's like, "I got some rigs." So I'm like, "Fix it up." So I did it one time, and I'm like, "Well, that wasn't that serious, you know?" And that was after that. That was how I did it. And I want to say up till, you know, for about 7 years So I started sniffing when I was about 21. Then 22 is when I started shooting it. A year goes by, and I'd like shot heroin every day. And I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I'm a heroin addict. And, you know, like this is not how I planned on my life turning out, you know? I said, I got to stop this. Another year goes by. I'm like, I haven't done shit. Like, I'm still shooting heroin. So at that time, you couldn't get heroin in Tennessee. I was in Michigan. And I told my girlfriend, I said, I got to go. and I left. I came back here to Tennessee where I couldn't get it and just forced myself to get off of it. But that wasn't the last time. I got clean for like a year. Then I went right back up there and started doing it again. So yeah, I've been there.
What was it like? So you move back down to Tennessee for a year, then you go back to Michigan, and then you start doing heroin again. How quick was the progression back to where you were during those 2 years of shooting it?
Almost like instantaneously. It was just off to the races. I want to say, I just went full out. Like as soon as I got back, it was that one shot, and a couple hours later, it was another one, and wake up and do another one. And before I know it, I'm right back where I was at, maybe probably even worse than I was before.
Yeah. How were you affording it?
Selling drugs, I would sell anything that made me money. I didn't make money off heroin. I might break even on that if I was but I would sell anything anybody wanted. I could get it. I'd get it for them, and I wouldn't rip them off. And I was trustworthy. You could put money in my hand, and I was one of those guys that you could give me $100, and you were either going to get your $100 back, or you're going to get your shit. And I wasn't going to take part of it. It was going to be exactly what I said. I prided myself on being an honest person, and I never was a scumbag. Even when I was like full blown addiction, I never stole from anybody. I didn't go to stores and steal stuff. If I couldn't make some sales and I couldn't get it, then I didn't get it. I wasn't one of those people that's like, I'll go out and steal stuff. Like I still had some type of self-respect, But yeah, I sold weed, mushrooms, ecstasy, Xanax pills, no matter what, whatever anybody wanted. Like I knew somebody, I could get it, and I'd throw a little tax on it and get them what they want.
Did that prolong you getting clean? The fact that you were not stealing, the fact that you were honest, were you saying, well, and a drug addict steals, a drug addict lies, and were you justifying in your head not doing those things, therefore you're not an addict?
Maybe. And also, I worked. I've worked like union jobs. Like when I was in Michigan, I worked for a scaffold building company out of Detroit. And our work was pretty like sporadic. Like we would get a job and it would last a week or two. Then I'd be laid off. And then, 3 weeks, maybe a month later, we'd get another job and it might last a week. It might last 3 weeks. Then I'd be laid off. So that was, I would usually use the money that I made to invest in drugs and then turn around and double that.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, like I can remember, like I would save myself like some bags of heroin because I knew I had to work the next day. So I knew I had them bags waiting on me. Like I couldn't wait to get up and jump up and run in there to the toilet and get right. But if I didn't have a couple bags, it was just like, oh my God. But I would still peel myself up out of bed and I'd still go to work. Yeah. So like, I guess you could say I was a functioning addict.
Yeah. I used to show up at work all the time and I justified to myself my using. Because I said, well, a drug addict doesn't go to work. I show up to work every day on time.
Right.
So it's crazy the lies that we tell ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
So you're using heroin. What are you, about 29, 30 years old at this point? When do you stop?
No, I actually, I got arrested for murder when I was 27.
Okay, that's what made you stop. Okay, so let's unpack that. What happened?
Yeah, that's a wild story, man. Like, if you would have told me that I would end up in prison for selling drugs, I would say, yeah, okay, that's definitely a possibility. But, if you would have told me when I was 20, like, you're going to be in prison for killing somebody one day, I would have laughed. I never would have believed that because, like, I don't even like kill animals, bro. Like I don't like hunt. A lot of people here, they shoot deer for sport. Like I ain't no killer. I love life, and I always have. I've always, you know what I mean? Like, I've always been a pretty gentle dude. Like, I don't kill mice. And so it's very ironic, but I got charged with beating a guy to death, man, in a bar fight. I never would have taken the guy's life on purpose, you know, but it was an ongoing situation that, you know, the police had been called and come out and like didn't care, you know, it was all fun and games. And, you know, they told me it's not even a crime to fight in the state of New Jersey. It's just a misdemeanor charge, you know, until somebody's laying in a chalk line, a chalk mark, and now it's serious. But, you know, I never would have taken the guy's life. It was just, it was an accident.
You were at a bar one night in Jersey?
Yes, sir.
What happened exactly?
So I was dropping somebody off, and there was somebody in there that his friends had like jumped me a couple times, twice prior. And I didn't even see the guy in there at first until the girl I was with like reached over and whispered in my ear and was like, "That guy's behind you." And I turned around, and there he was, and he was looking like glaring at me and looking all mean. And you know, I didn't know this at the time, but you know, once I got my discovery and I saw the surveillance tape from the bar and all that, you know, and they talked to the witnesses that were there before I got there. Like, the guy he was up in there trying to fight somebody else. Like, he was smacking a dude in the face, in the head. Like, it's on camera. And he was trying to get that guy to go outside and fight him. And then I showed up, and he wanted to fight me. And I was a combination of alcohol, like I'd been drinking. So, you know, my inhibitions were already, you know, alcohol makes people way more likely to fight. And another part of it was just like frustration. I was just so tired of being messed with. And
there were two prior times where you had already gotten into a fight with this guy at other bars.
No, it was the same place.
That same bar.
All three were at the same place.
Why did you fight him the first time? Over a girl, or?
So I fought him because he ran up and punched me in my face.
At the bar, randomly?
No. So it did all get started over a girl. It was one of his friends had, you know, said some improper things, like some disrespectful things to a girl that I was with. And we all worked together. And I had asked about this guy at work, like, who is this guy? And it got back to him that I was asking about him. So him and his buddy, they were like serious troublemakers. Like, that's all they wanted to do was fight. They were looking for any excuse to fight and cause trouble. And they heard that I was asking who this guy was, so they just decided they were going to beat me up. And I came through the door, and the guy ran up on me swinging. So I swung back. It got broke up. I keep it moving. I go around the corner to the elevator. Then his two buddies jumped in the elevator and, you know, fired off on my head. And that was the first time I ever met this dude. He was punching me in my face. And that's the guy that started it all. He died. I just found out like yesterday that he's dead. Don't know what. I'm surmising that it was an OD, because all it says was that he died in his home, you know. And the dude wasn't even 40. He was like 39. So yeah, they're both not here anymore. But yeah, the guy that died, the first time I met him, he was punching me in my face. And then after that, when I seen him, they would be talking smack, you know, saying they were going to jump me again. And I didn't back down from them. I wasn't afraid of them. It made me mad, you know, that they were messing with me. And I never asked to fight them. But I didn't back down either. And then after the second time, like, the hotel called the cops, and the cops basically didn't care. They told me it wasn't a crime to fight in New Jersey, so unless they used a weapon on me. So the third time the guy wants to fight me, I'm like, well, the cop said it's not a crime to fight. So, you know, as long as I don't use a weapon, I won't get in trouble. So I walked out of the bar to fight the guy, and thought he just got knocked out, you know, and I went home feeling like the shit. Threw my clothes on the floor and went to sleep. And I wake up a couple hours later, police beating on the doors and gold badges all in the windows. The house is surrounded by police, and they said, come with us.
When you knocked him out, so you guys tussled this third fight outside of the bar, you punched him and he knocked out, or?
So I did punch him. I elbowed him. I kneed him. Like I'm a UFC, you know, like I was striking him with everything I could. And the last blow was a kick. Like I kicked him in his face. You know, this dude outweighed me by like 75 pounds. I wasn't trying to let him get up.
Oh, I get it.
After me. So I just wanted to knock him out, you know, like I'm trying to knock him out. And I did. And like he's snoring. And I grabbed my shit, I had hung my shirt on the doorknob as I walked out, and I grabbed my shirt and left. And I just thought the dude was going to wake up and go in there and drink a beer, and he'd be like, well, I ain't messing with that dude no more, you know? And I woke up to a rude awakening.
So the cops come to your door, you're home, you wake up to a rude awakening. What do they take you away?
Yeah, they said, you need to put some clothes on and come with us. So I'm just like, all right, I'll put some clothes on. I get in the cop car, and they said, this guy Dave says he had a fight with you. Could that be true? I said, yeah, it's true. But I guarantee you he ain't telling you the whole story. I said, that guy last night, he asked for that. And I gave him exactly what he asked for. And he deserved it. You know, and I said, why are you even here? I don't understand why you're even talking to me. Like, you didn't care when I was getting beat up. You didn't care when they were jumping me. Like, you know, is this serious? And they said, he's hurt a little worse than you think he is, you know? And I'm like, what's wrong with him? What happened? And they're like, we'll tell you in a minute. And so they just wanted me to keep talking, you know? And I told them the whole story, told them everything, you know, from the time that I showed up in New Jersey till the night that it happened. I told him the whole story. But yeah, I just told Ian pretty much the whole thing.
Yeah, that's then they break the news to you that he had passed away.
No, they didn't actually. I said, am I gonna have a bail? Because I've got to be back to work, you know? And they said, yeah, you're gonna have a bail. So they pushed me in a courtroom, and it's a Sunday. I'm looking all around. I'm like, there's a judge in a robe, and there's cops. And like, where do they have court on Sundays? I'm like, what the hell is going on here? You know, like I knew it was just strange. I felt like I was in a dream. And I stand up there, and they say, you're charged with knowingly, purposefully, willfully inflicting serious bodily injury that resulted in the death of David Earl Hallmark. And I'm just like, I look behind me, like, who is? Not me. Like, I'm just here for fighting. Like, and anyway, like they just automatically entered a not guilty plea, I think, for me, and pushed me out of the courtroom. And those detectives, you know, that had interviewed me, like they were the ones escorting, like pushing me in the courtroom. I came out. I said, hey, that guy didn't die. And the guy just looked at me and went. And I'm just like, oh, hell no. No way.
Holy shit. What are you thinking at this point? Is it even like...
I was thinking, you need to wake up. Like, wake up. This ain't cool. This is enough. Wake up. Yeah, it took a while for it to, like, set in.
Okay, so they do not give you bail then?
They did. It was $750,000. And, you know, I could have bailed. Really, I couldn't have even bailed out because my family's from Tennessee. I was in New Jersey. Like, maybe if they would have put up the 10%, you know, it would cost $75,000 cash. And I didn't have that much money. And I didn't expect my parents to lose $75,000 cash. They didn't have it like that. So I sat in jail, waited trial. It was like a little over 3 years I waited for the first trial.
Okay, so you're in jail or prison? No, you just sit in jail for 3 years until you're...
County jail, yeah.
What was that experience like?
Well, to be quite honest, if I had to be in a county jail, that county jail was the spot to be in. Like, I remember when they first took me in there, I'm going like through the basement and I see like boxes of like fryer grease. And I was like, what do they have, like French fries here? And the cop's like, yeah. I'm like, no way. Like, hey, there's no way. So then they put me in a little holding cell, and I'm like talking to the dudes in there, and they're telling me about it. I'm like, they got TV in there? And they're like, yeah. And they're like, well, they got cable. And I'm like, no, they don't. I'm like, yeah, they got cable TV and carpet. Like, I've never in my life heard of a jail with carpet floors and cable TV. But yeah, it was sweet, man. It was and their food, jail food sucks, right? And if you didn't know, most of it is like Aramark, and it's disgusting. Like a dog wouldn't. It's not. There's dog food that's better than what the Aramark stuff is, but this particular jail was like privately owned. I guess it was because I think Sussex County, New Jersey, there's more money there, and this was like a privately owned facility, and they actually like had a chef that worked there, and like they had like homemade meatballs and like those like little chicken Kiev patty, like like filled with butter and herbs, and some of them are like cordon bleu. Yeah, they had those in jail. So like the food was awesome. Like, yeah, I did get in a couple fights there, but it wasn't no big boy jail. Like it wasn't scary at all. And the fact that I had a red band, everybody else had a blue band, but I had a red band, as it was like I was high, and everybody, they knew, what I was charged with. And like people were scared of me. Like there was this one time, man, I got this bunkie that came in there. I'm friends with him on Facebook. Like I still talk to him. He sent me a really awesome message one time and told me that I like inspired him. And he said when he gets depressed, he thinks about me and my attitude towards my situation that I was facing, and how I always kept a smile on my face. And if I could do it, then he can carry on through what he's got going on. And that meant a lot to me. But his name was Justin Oakley, by the way. Shout out to Justin Oakley. Yeah. But the police, man, they sent him, and they're like, man, we're sorry. We got to put you in there with this murderer, man. He beat this dude to death. And, they would mess with people. And like these kids would come in, and they would be like, bro, I'm only going to be here for like 30 days, or I'm only going to be here a week, or I'm only, like, I won't even talk, bro. Like you won't even know I'm here. They'd be scared to death. I'm like, bro, I'm actually a nice dude. Like you don't have to worry. Like it's cool. But it was kind of funny how, people would, they thought I was mean.
Did you stop all because I know you can get drugs in jail. Did you stop all drug use once you went in?
Not completely. So for at first, yeah, until I figured out how to make moves. But yeah, like when I came back for my second trial, after I won my appeal, one of the nurses was like, "Aren't you the guy that got caught with a pharmacy in his room?"
Oh my God.
But yeah, they caught me with OxyContin, Opanas, oxymorphone dilaudid, Xanaxes. Like I did. And then they put me in a turtle suit because they thought that I was like saving all this up to like kill myself. Yeah. But I wasn't. I was just trying to dull the pain. I wasn't trying to sell it. Hell no. I was trying to do every bit of it.
Yeah. Pass your time.
Yeah. If I could just nod out and dream about butterflies and blue sky, green grass and butterflies, man, take me out of that place.
So be it.
I was trying to do that any way I could.
How were you getting all of those pills in jail?
So I'm going to tell you, like, I'm sure they're onto the hustle by now, and this but like I hate to get anybody's operation shut, you know what I mean? But I'm really not pro drugs. Like I don't want to glamorize or glorify nothing I've ever done. I want people to learn from my mistakes and not go through what I've done. But so the way they do it, the way you can do it is they have a sheriff's work program. There's certain inmates that are in there for like DUIs. They go out and pick up trash, or they mow weed eat at cemeteries, or paint firehouses, and just different things. And what you got to do is pull up one of these guys that goes out and works and get in his ear and say, hey, bro, like, bring it back in for me. And then you send out a letter to somebody and you say, you know, at this certain date, there's a porta potty over here. Put this in a bag and reach down inside and tape it up inside the porta potty on the left-hand side. And then you tell the guy that's going out working exactly where it's at and say, hey, man, there's something out there. Go bring it in here. And that's how you do it.
Interesting. So you said that you appealed what happened? It took 3 years in jail for your trial to take place.
Yes.
What happened at trial? Walk us through. And then you said you had an appeal. Walk us through that whole process.
So I started picking a jury in the first trial. That lasted a few weeks. They gave their opening statements. You know, they told the jury that I beat this guy to death and said what he deserved. And yeah, that's true. I did say that, but they also didn't care to point out to the jury that I had no idea the guy was dead when I said it, you know, but they figured that out on their own. It was obvious, you know, when you read my statement, when there was a tape of it so they could hear me say it. Like when you hear me giving my statement, it's blatantly obvious that I have no clue what's going on because I keep asking, like, why are you even here? You know, if I knew I just killed somebody, I would have lawyered up, you know, but I'm just like, yeah, I beat the hell out of him. So what? Why do you care? You know? But that actually, I used to watch a lot of First 48 and I'd always be like, why are you talking? Just all you got to say is I want a lawyer. Well, you idiot. And then I go in there and cut a record, 176 page, you know, 2 hour statement. But I honestly felt like I hadn't done anything wrong. And, you know, it turned out to be more of a benefit to me in the end because the jury could see that I didn't mean to kill the guy and I didn't plan on it and I didn't even know he was dead. But yeah, the state did all kinds of underhanded things. Like they had people getting up there and crying like fake tears, like acting theatrical. And I can't say I know for a fact, but I know I'm not an idiot. And I would think that the jury wasn't that dumb enough to fall for it because when people cry, like tears come from their eyes. Mm-hmm. And there was not one tear was shed, but a whole lot of acting going on. So just, you know, things like that. They destroyed evidence. The judge would rule things inadmissible that should have totally been admissible. And ultimately, I got found guilty of aggravated manslaughter. They acquitted me of first-degree murder, and they came back with an aggravated manslaughter guilty verdict. And I remember some of the women in the jury were crying when they read it. I'm like, well, why are you crying? Like, y'all the ones that did this to me. Like, you didn't have to do that. But my lawyer and the public defender, they came to me and they said, you're coming back. You're coming back. Like, don't go down there and act crazy, man. You're coming back. They did you wrong. So I did that. You know, I went down to state prison and I tried my best to just stay out of the way, man. Like people would want me to gamble with them. And, you know, I'm just like, nah, man, I ain't trying to catch nobody over a candy bar. Like, and I just tried to stay to myself as much as possible.
What were you sentenced to?
35 years.
So you were 35, convicted, aggravated manslaughter, 35 years in prison, but you have a little bit of hope because you are now going to appeal it, correct?
Yes.
Were you doing drugs in prison?
I sniffed heroin maybe once or twice in those 3 years.
Yeah.
But it's crazy expensive there. And there was a couple times when some dudes that I mess with just gave it to me for free. Mm. You know, I wasn't going to spend no $100 for a $10 bag of it. Mm. But there was a couple times when some guys just came to my cell and was like, split that up. So, yeah, I sniffed it.
Yeah.
But I wasn't never going to be one of them junkies. Like, I'll tell you this. I didn't tell either one of those guys this story. There was a guy, man. he would get drugs fronted to him, and then he would call his mom and say, "Look, you got to cash out $50 to this number. They're going to stab me." And his mama would do it, and she'd say, "I ain't doing this no more. Don't you do this again." He'd do it again. She paid it again, and she said, "I'm telling you, don't do this no more." He did it again. She said, "Son, I don't know what to tell you, but you're on your own this time." So he hangs up the phone, goes in his cell, and he was so scared of being stabbed, he hung himself and killed himself over $50. And I wasn't going to be one of them. I never asked my mama for nothing. I actually had some money in the bank when I got locked up. So everything that I got, all my books, my food packages, my commissary, I paid for all that, you know. Spent 10 grand on ramen noodles in those years.
So you appeal?
I did. I filed an appeal. So that's kind of a good story I like to tell, the story of my appeal. I didn't really go into that with those guys either. But so my cellmate, Kevin, he's still there. I still talk to him. I talk to him almost every day, actually, still.
What year is this when you appeal?
2000. I went down in 2011. I filed an appeal immediately, but it didn't get heard until, I didn't get argued until 2014. But when I first found out who my appellate attorney was, Kevin, he was like, "Come on, let's go down to the law library and see Ray. He knows about all the attorneys, and he'll tell you if he's any good or not." Now, Ray, his real name is Aurelio Cagno, and he was like a made member of the Colombo family in the mob, and he was in there for like whacking the boss. And we go down there, and this old man, actually Kevin just told me that Ray's not doing good. Like, I'm surprised he's still alive, but he lost a leg, I guess. He only has one leg now. But anyway, we get down there, and he says, "Ray, this is my boy Country." He's like, "Tell him who your lawyer is, Country." I said, "Stephen W. Kirsch." And the guy looks at me, he kind of perked up. He said, "Steve Kirsch? Who's got Steve Kirsch? You got Steve Kirsch?" And I said, "Yeah, I got Steve Kirsch." And he said, "Kick back. You're home already." And I was like, "What?" I said, "It's like that?" He said, "I'll put it to you like this. Nobody can win them all, but I bet this guy wins 2 out of 3. And so I was like super excited, you know. I run back to my cell. I get the phone. I call my mom. I'm like, "Mom, I just met this old Mafia guy in the library, and he said my lawyer's awesome." So I tell my mom who it is, and she reaches out and calls the guy. And next time I talked to her, she said he said give him a couple months to familiarize himself and read your transcripts and you know, learn the case, and then he's going to give us an opinion what he thinks. So a few months later goes by, and I called my mom one day, and she said, "Your attorney got back with me. He said, 'Ma'am, I've been doing this for 40 years, and if your son's case isn't the biggest injustice I've ever seen in 40 years, it's most 100% certainly in the top 3 of worst I've ever seen injustices.'" He said, I've got a rule that I keep my work life and my home life completely separate, and I don't take my cases home with me at night, but I can't help but take this home with me, and I'm taking this personally, and I'm going to do everything that I can to get him out of there. So that sounded really good. And, you know, probably 9 months or a year goes by, and they finally schedule it for an oral argument. And he argued against the prosecutor from my case, you know, in front of a panel, 3-judge panel of appellate court judges. And he walked out of the courtroom, and he called my mom as soon as he walked out the door, and he said, "This is also something that I don't do. I don't ever say that we won before the decision comes back. You know, it takes them a while to come back with a decision after you argue it." He said, "I don't ever say we won before the decision, but we won." So, you know, it sounded really good. You know, I talked to my mom. She tells me that, and I'm like, "Well, that sounds awesome." But at this point in my life, I've learned don't count your chickens before they hatch. You know, I hope for the best and I expect the worst. So like I couldn't mentally just be like, okay, well, he said we won. You know, I'm going home. It wasn't like that at all. It sounded all good, you know, but until I was walking out that door, it wasn't real to me, you know. So then a couple months later, I called my mom on the phone. I'm like, how you doing, mama? She said, baby, I'm wonderful. And I knew when she said that what it was, but I wanted to hear her say it. I said, why? And like I always kind of tear up when I think about this, but she said, because you're coming home. And yeah, that's when I found out that they had overturned my conviction. They tried to send me to the hospital to get my tonsils taken out because I'd been on a list to have a tonsillectomy ever since I'd been there, but you don't get no medical care in prison, dude. It's a joke. So they realized I'm getting out, and I can probably sue them for not, you know, neglecting my medical health, and they tried to put me on a van that day and take me to have my tonsils taken out. Well, I knew. They didn't know that I knew. I'd already talked to my mom. I knew I was about to leave there. And to be quite honest, man, after the lengths that I saw them go through, like to lie and destroy evidence and hide witnesses and coach witnesses and all these things that I saw the state that's supposed to be the justice, you know, the righteous ones do to me to try to take my life, like I feel like it was a legitimate concern. Like I was afraid that they were gonna murder me, like on the operating table, and just give me too much anesthesia and be like, "Whoop, accident, our bad, sorry." You know, like I didn't. So I refused the tonsillectomy, and then they were like, "Okay, well," they put me on a shipment. Two cops came and got me, brought me back to the county jail, where I started all over again.
So you get out. What did you do? A total of 7 years, if my math is correct?
Like 6 years and 10 months.
Okay.
I think it was total.
So 7 months. What year are we in?
6 years, 10 months. So like two months shy of 7 years.
What year was this?
So I was arrested on August the 17th of 2008, and I was exonerated on February 16th of 2016.
Okay. Wow. You remember those dates. You'll remember those dates forever.
Mm-hmm.
Where's your mental health at once you get released? What does it feel like?
That's a pretty good question. So, and I guess it's still, I'm still kind of maybe have a little issues. I'm supposed to be going to therapy actually, but I don't. So I was super excited. And it was like, I've missed all these years and there's so many things. I have so many things to catch up on. I can't sleep. There's no time for sleeping. There's so many things to know, so many things to learn. So, you know, and I'm an insomniac, you know, like my mind never stops working. There's always something to do. And I've only got so much time left. And it's always in the back of my mind, oh, you can't sleep now. You've got to do it, you know. So one of the first things that I did is there was a man named John Kadash, and he did the church there at the jail. And I remember I asked him to call my parents and talk to them, you know, see if he could make them feel better, you know, like I was like, check on my mama for me. And he did. And like, so my parents became friends with him. And so then like when I bailed out, he took me and my mom to a high school basketball game. And, you know, I just went from like a maximum security prison, dude. Like I don't go nowhere without, like I went to a psych doctor once in this town, and they closed the whole town off to transport me from the jail to the hospital to see a psych doctor. Like they literally, I had chains, my wrists were chained to my waist, and I had leg shackles on. And they might as well put a Hannibal Lecter mask on me. I never saw, like I went from the jail in the back of the cop car, all I saw were sirens in the street. Like they blocked the roads off, and like you couldn't, like they literally shut the town off. And I walked through the hospital. I never saw one civilian ever. Like I was in a ghost town. It was crazy. And I'm just like, man, like these people, like, this is crazy. All this for me. Like I wouldn't even hurt anybody.
Right.
So I go to this basketball game, dude, and there's like all these kids running around and yelling and chasing each other and run. And it was so weird. It was like, this is the feeling that I had. It was like, I'm supposed to have handcuffs on.
Yeah.
Like, you can't have me around these kids. You know what I mean? Like after being treated like a monster for all those years in my mind, like I started to like believe it, you know, even though I knew like I'm not a danger to anybody, just the fact that for all those years, like I was just like handcuffed and treated like I was Hannibal Lecter. It was strange. And so, yeah, I didn't really sleep, man, for more. I went to work. And my dad would wake up in the middle of the night and I'd just be sitting there staring at the wall. And he would get mad at me because I wasn't asleep, you know. I'm working 12-hour days and then just be exhausted. Like I remember one day I came home, my whole body, like my fingers, my arms, my legs, my toes, I was cramping up. So like I collapsed in the floor and my mom came and brought me a jug of pickle juice and I chugged that pickle juice and pickle juice would make your cramps go away. But I was like seizing up. My whole body was cramping. And that's how hard I was working. And then I would just sit there all night and stare at the wall. My dad would like accuse me of being on my phone, but I'm like, I'm not on my phone. Like he's like, you need to go to sleep. You got to work in the morning. And he would get mad at me, but I couldn't sleep, man. And even now, like I take it's an antihistamine called hydroxyzine, but I have a weird like nervous itch. And it helps with that itch, and it also puts me to sleep. So if I wasn't taking that, I'd probably be sleeping like 2 hours a night, maybe, you know. So
since you've been home, have you been able to stop using drugs completely?
Yeah. So I can't tell you the last time I like used a needle, you know, so I did actually do it after I came home, you know, but not for very long, you know. I think around 2016 or 17 for a few months, you know, I did get into getting high, but I didn't keep doing it. You know, I felt myself getting out, you know what I mean? And I'm like, yeah, I don't want to go back down this road. Like it's over with. And I did stop. And I've been clean for several years. I don't know if I should say this because I'm on parole right now, but you know,
Yeah, you're doing great.
Yeah, I did. I've come a long way, and I've been clean for several years.
That's amazing, you know? Man. That's amazing. You know, you're institutionalized for 7 years. You get out. I mean, iPhones are new, dating apps are new. I think Facebook probably just took off as you were going in.
Yeah.
Instagram is new.
It was MySpace back in the day. I actually, right before I got locked up, the very first iPhone had come out, and there was a kid at my job that had one. So like I literally saw the iPhone 1 once, but I didn't mess with it. You know what I mean? I just saw a kid had it in his hand. I had seen a smartphone one time.
Yeah.
And then I get out, you know, everybody's got them. And I actually like took to it, like, you know, the Androids anyway. I just like my brother had a S3 Galaxy, I think, and gave me one. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, my dad's like, how do you know how to do that? I'm like, I mean, it's just like a computer. It's like Windows pretty much, you know?
So if you could go back to 2006, 2007, 2008, for the person listening who is outside of the bar, they know those guys are in the bar. What piece of advice would you have for them?
Unless your life is in immediate danger, if somebody like calls you outside a fight or somebody challenges you to a fight, like it's not worth going there, man. It's not worth taking that chance over like bravado or ego. You know what I'm saying? Like there's so many fights that happen just over a dirty look or words, you know. You could call me whatever, you know what I mean? You can talk as bad about me as you want, and I don't care what anybody, you know, has to say. Like, if you're not coming at me with like a knife trying to stab me or something, like, I'm not gonna fight nobody. And basically, yeah, I never dreamed in a million years that I would be charged with what I was charged with. And if you go out, like, I've got like PTSD. Like, I have nightmares that people are trying to hurt me, and like I will punch them in the throat or something, and they just choke to death and die. And I'm like, oh God, that's always the dream. It's like always kind of like a different scenario, but it's always, the gist is always the same. I just accidentally killed someone again, and now nobody's gonna believe me because the prosecution tried to say that I was lying and I did it on purpose the first time. So now people, they're going to say, oh, how many times can you accidentally kill someone in one lifetime? You know what I mean? So that's always the nightmare. Nobody's going to believe me. And then I wake up and I'm like, oh God, thank God that wasn't real. So yeah, my advice would just be,
it's not worth it.
You ain't got to fight, man.
It's not worth it.
Yeah, it's not worth it at all.
Do you think ego played a part in the initial incident that happened?
The initial incident, I don't think so. Like I felt that girl came out there with me, and she, you know, I was all she had out there. And the dude, she went to the police too and reported what he did. And they said, well, we believe you've been sexually assaulted. The dude grabbed her ass. You know what I mean? That's sexual assault. And they put that in a police report. But they didn't care. The police report was like 3 sentences long. Emily Henry came in and reported this, and we advised her that we believe she was sexually assaulted. And they said, we'll investigate and get back to you. Well, they didn't do nothing until there's a guy that's dead. So now all of a sudden, like months later, they go back in and rewrite the same report and type a supplemental report and put all these things that she said that they didn't make the first cut, you know, because they weren't important enough until somebody's dead, you know, over the situation. But yeah, she was sexually assaulted, and who else is going to take it? You know what I mean? I felt like it was my place to tell this guy, and I didn't want to fight him. I just all I wanted to say was, hey, bro, don't do that. You know, don't do that again. And if he would have been like, you know what, I was drunk, my bad. Nope. Cool, bro. Just please don't do that. That's all I wanted. It was just to let him know that wasn't cool. And I didn't get that chance because he heard that I asked who he was, and they jumped me. And so after that, you know, maybe so, you know, like I said, I was mad after that. Like so I guess you could say maybe after that first time it was a little bit of ego because I wouldn't back down from the guys. You know, like I said, did I tell you about the safety meeting when they were like heckling me or whatever? And, you know, I didn't have to say what I said to them.
Yeah.
But I was like, dude, I'll beat the brakes off you. You know, I could have just walked away. So yeah, there's a lot of things. Like I used to toss and turn at night when I first got to prison. And I would think about things like that. Well, if I had just done this, or if I'd have just went back the way I came, or if I had just not gone out that night, or if I would have just not gone in the bar when Jose invited me in for one more drink, or if I, you know, and this is crazy. We didn't have cable there, but we had this channel, like we had like Ion and UPN, and it was like real staticky on the TV. And Saturdays and Sundays, they would play movies. And one day this movie came on, and it's called The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. And it's about Brad Pitt, and he's born a little old man, and he ages backwards, and then he turns into a baby and dies. And part of that movie, like when he's a little old man, he meets this little girl in Louisiana, and she wants to grow up and become a ballerina. And she turns like 20 or 18 or whatever and moves to New York City to become a ballet dancer. And it shows the scene of the movie where all these things happen. Like this guy stayed up all night fighting with his girlfriend, and this this person forgot to set their alarm and overslept, and this person's shoe came untied, and this got knocked out the window, and this caused this person to swerve. All these things that if like one of these things hadn't happened, none of it would have, you know. And it just seeing that part of the movie, and he's like explaining like sometimes the universe just works in crazy ways, and sometimes things are just meant to happen. We don't know why, but you know, it is what it is. And for whatever reason, like seeing that part of that movie, it all, because like I said, so many nights I had sat there and pondered like, well, if just one of these things hadn't happened, all of this would have not happened. All of these things had to happen all together. And if I had just one thing different, I wouldn't be here. And like, I would like pray and talk to God and say like, well, you know me. Like, why am I here? Like, do I really deserve this? And so yeah, seeing that part of that movie, after I saw that, it just kind of clicked, and I just accepted it, and I was like, this is meant to happen, you know. And now, you know, a lot of people say, I'm sorry that you went through that. I'm sorry that you had to go through that. And I always tell them the same thing, like, I'm not sorry that it happened. Yeah, I'm sorry the guy died. I'm sorry that man and woman lost their son, and I'm sorry that 2 girls lost their father, you know. But I don't want to like talk bad about, you know, or disrespect somebody that's not here anymore. But this guy had done some really violent things. And sometimes I wonder if, you know, maybe he would have done something really bad one day. And God knew that I was strong enough to make it through these trials that I've come through, and I would come out a stronger person from it. And, you know, I'm not saying I'm like the avenger of God, you know what I mean? I don't want to sound like that, but I like the person that I am today. You know, I'm proud of myself. I was a junkie, you know. I was never a bad person, but I sold drugs. That's, to me, that's evil. You know, at the time when I was doing it, I didn't understand the evil that I was committing or the karmic debt that I was incurring upon myself, because to me, I was doing these people a favor. I wanted the drugs too. So if I'm getting you good drugs at a lower price, like I'm helping you out. Like, what's wrong with that? But now that I'm older and wiser, you know, I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed of what I did. And I want to make up for it. I don't know if I ever will be able to make up for that, but it won't stop me from trying to be a good person and to tell the stories and to try to influence people to become better people. And I want to like be an example for people, you know, like I was hopeless. I was, you know, a lot of people, you know, I thought about committing suicide. Like, you know, there were several times when it crossed my mind through those years. But, you know, if somebody's out there like thinking about hurting themselves, like if they could visualize what I went through and put themselves in my shoes, like the kid Justin Oakley, he said, sometimes I want to start to get depressed out there. And I've thought about you through all these years. You know, I contacted him on Facebook when I got out. He said, I've thought about you through all these years, and when I start to feel down or like things aren't going well for me and I want to get depressed, I think about you and the way you smiled and the way you carried yourself and the attitude that you had when you were facing, you know what I mean, in the most dire of circumstances. And you inspired me to be stronger. And, you know, if I could do that, then that'll make me a happy person. You know, I'll feel very like accomplished, and, you know, that's worth more than money could ever buy. Like if I feel like I was a positive influence, or at least could make up for the bad things that I've done, you know, it'd make me feel a sense of purpose.
Thank you for sharing that. Well, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. Are there any your YouTube channel? Do you want to plug it?
Sure. It's do you have to say at? Like, I'm so new at this, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So it's at Jacob's Ladder 111 I'm big into
Awesome.
angel numbers, man. I could talk for a long time about that too.
Next episode. Well, Jacob, thank you very much. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure.